If you recall a video I did just last week, I talked about how utilizing draws can trigger impact blocks by your offensive linemen. And if your offensive linemen have the nasty streak or the vanguard ability, a lot of times those pancake blocks will put the defender in the turf. In today's video, we're going to contrast regular run styles against RPOs and how the difference between a player playing their run fit immediately versus keying pass can trigger impact blocks by having flat-footed defenders. So make sure that you guys get out your pen and your notepad, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and let's get after it. So to kick off this video here, I want to talk about what a run fit is. A lot of players don't really realize that run fits are a thing in the game and that a lot of players on your defense have a run assignment and a pass assignment. And this can lead towards not really understanding what gap your user is responsible for or moving players that are AI defenders out of the gap that they're responsible for. Now, the easiest way to pull up your run fits as a defensive player is to hold right trigger or R2 on your controller. And then if you want to see what the defense is going to do on a run to the left, you would hit the X or the square icon. This is going to draw lines from some, but not all of your defenders to the gap. This means that in this case, if the offense runs the ball to the offensive's left or the defense's right, these are the lanes that all must be filled. And then if you want to check the run fits on runs to the right, you would simply hold the right trigger and then hit the B button or circle on PlayStation. And that's going to show you the gaps for all the defenders that are in the run fit on the run to the right. So you might have a player that has three different assignments, if you will. So when we take a look at our play art, let's take a look at the curl flat defender Cooper DeJean. If it's a pass, he's responsible for a curl flat. If it's a run to the left, he's responsible for playing force, meaning the run cannot get outside of him. And if the run is to the right, he plays the cutback role, which is that left B gap. So really, he's got three different things that he has to know in the back of his mind he's responsible for. Now, not every single coverage has the exact run fit either. So if we were to contrast, for instance, the cover 3 versus the cover 2 defense, when we take a look at the cover 2 defense, you'll note that rather than having one of the safeties involved in the run fit, you see that a corner is involved. And again, you take a look at these run fits. A lot of times cover 2 is going to involve your outside corners depending on the offensive formation. So if you feel like your slot corner can't keep everything funneled inside, sometimes getting the outside corners involved in a cover 2 is useful. And then you also will have your cover 4 defense, which when you take a look at the run fits for those, involves the safeties. This is one of the reasons that cover 4 is so good in Madden most years, is that the safeties are run first defenders, but they also have those over the top assignments, which sometimes is straight zone, sometimes it's matching. It just depends on whether you're calling cover 4 drop or cover 4 quarters or palms. Now, the run fits in this game are going to be dictated by what a player has for their play recognition rating. So when we take a look at a defensive player, that is the most important rating besides obviously tackle and pursuit. That's going to show you how quickly they process a play. So when you take a look at, for instance, the play rec of my linebackers on the field, you see that I basically got as high as possible on my MUT team. 98s and 99s almost across the board. I use strategy items that boost my middle linebackers and my safeties for run fit purposes. I want my safeties flowing to the football. I want my linebackers flowing to the football. Play recognition does a lot, but one of the biggest things is how quickly they key the run. And when you guys run the ball in this game, you likely have noticed that sometimes your vanguards do not really do a good job of pancaking those players. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to run the ball. This does not mean that I'm not going to get good yardage, but I want you to key in on this linebacker right here, Ivan Pace Jr. On my team, he's got very, very high play rec, and he's going to be blocked by my vanguard, Quentin Nelson, who is our left guard. So I'm going to click off here and just run right at him, and you're going to see that Quentin Nelson kind of gets blown up a little bit. Now, he did a good job of preventing the guy from tackling him, but the play recognition rating is really what starts the engine of a player when they're in the run fit. It's how quickly they realize, oh, hey, this is a run call. So you see right here when the ball snapped, he immediately is stepping forward into his gap, and this closes down the space that our vanguard has to get out and fire off the ball and blow him up. Furthermore, you also saw right here that I have the run stuffer ability or the out of my way or reinforcement. If you have one of those three abilities on your linebackers, they do a really, really good job. But you see right here that we still got an okay enough block out of Quentin Nelson, but he didn't really get off the ball and clear this lane out. And I could have had more yardage if he did a better job of getting up to that second level. That is where RPO calls come into play. Now, there are several benefits to running an RPO, and I'm going to go through them quickly. But first, make sure you guys open up another tab and check out my strategy website, gridirongameplans.gg. If you enjoy the content right here on this YouTube channel that's absolutely free, you are sure to love the content on Gridiron Game Plans. First and foremost, Gridiron gets all of the things that I know first. Sometimes you see a tip here that I released maybe in June that was on the website back in February. Or when you talk about something that you might find in the fall that's impactful in October or November or December, it's something that I put on the website in August or September. Furthermore, not all the content I put here on the channel is from the website, and not all the content from the website comes to the channel. So there's a lot over on the website. Make sure you guys check it out. You guys will get every single vault update, weekly updates curated specifically for you, fixated on the meta, the most effective tactics available, and just ways to optimize Madden by winning within the margins. A lot of these areas that I teach you guys here on the channel are stuff that I talk about on the website, and it's stuff that's ignored by other players. And they'll even go so far as to tell you it has no value, but there's a rhyme and a reason for everything. And there's a way that you can mismatch or create mismatches that we go over in those vault tips. On top of that, you guys get all offensive and defensive game plans, members only Discord access. Our Discord has live lab sessions every single week. Make sure you guys take a look at those. We're going to be archiving them on the website, Madden 26. So make sure you take advantage of our pre-sales for M26 and College Football 26. I will see you guys over there on the website. Otherwise, back to the video. So let's take a look here. We obviously need to trigger impact blocks, or at least get that player in space, that offensive lineman with a full head of steam. Now, we ran an inside zone here, so let's run a similar inside zone with this RPO. Now, before we went to that little upsell for Gridiron, I mentioned there's a few benefits to RPOs. First and foremost, if you hate read and react AI, which is that fake programmed way where they just don't block players after you've called a run so many times, that is dedicated specifically to run only calls. That means that you have basically only X amount of times you can run an inside zone. You can run RPO inside zone as many times as you want, and they will never get an artificial basically blowing of a run block scheme, or a guy insta shedding, or a guy auto run committing. This is because RPOs are run pass options. Now, I would be lying if I told you that RPOs this year are better than they were last year. They are a little bit slower in the way that they hand off the football. They slowed down the handoff animations, but they did not speed up the way that the defense, particularly the players that have not only a run fit, but also a coverage assignment, participate. So you remember on that inside zone, Ivan Pace stepped forward immediately and closed down that space, didn't allow for the impact block. I want you to take notice of what occurs when we run this inside zone RPO at him. Now, some players will tell you that you could slide your protection or ID the mic, and that might change things. But the truth is here that this is actually something that I don't find to be consistent. But what you do notice is that when you have a run scheme that gets a player to the second level, he will trigger an impact block win if that player has a pass assignment in addition to a run assignment. So you see right here that he kind of backpedaled, kind of shuffled. He's playing that coverage key. And that allows us to get a full head of steam and trigger that pancake block from our nasty streak or our vanguard. So we're able to get these guys in space by calling an RPO, which says, oh, hey, I need to make sure they don't throw a slant over my head, or make sure that they don't throw the bubble out to the perimeter. So they're kind of flat-footed, they don't step forward, and that allows them to get hit with that dominant impact block win. Now, from your point of view and whatever playbook it is that you run, the message you need to be receiving here is, I need to lab my offensive playbook against the metas, whether that's 3-3 odd or 1-4 loop blitz, or the 3-2 with the drag and the ram blitz. Try to find ways that you can get players that are in the run fit to just stand flat-footed so you can get that honorary lineman wide receiver on them, or that vanguard wide receiver on them, or that offensive guard up to that second level. So let's go ahead and lab something. I'm just gonna be honest here. I'm gonna call some RPOs I've never actually really run this year. So here we go, RPO peak stick. And it's gonna be very, very similar to maybe like an outside zone. Let's see if we have any other RPOs maybe in this playbook or this formation now. Let's go ahead and run this RPO peak stick. So one of the things here with the outside zone is that this type of RPO, we're gonna have everybody kind of stepping left. And we're going to see if we can get a block to that second level. And that's exactly what you see, is that we get Quentin Nelson up to that second level, and he absolutely clears out that linebacker once again. So in certain cases, you might have an RPO inside zone where Quentin Nelson's double teaming and then comboing up to the second level. In this case, we just have him go up to that second level. And because Ivan Pace is trying to figure out whether or not we're throwing the ball or running the ball, he stands a little bit more flat-footed or works laterally. He's not taking a step at the line of scrimmage. This allows us to win the impact block, even though he has the run stuffer ability. And depending on your offensive line, you know, how many tight ends you have, or, you know, just the defensive formation, you might be able to get outside or cut it back a little bit easier. So maybe you take a look at some other plays in your playbook. Maybe try to find a little bit of a heavier alignment here. Of course, we all know the RPO read flat wheel out of the gun deuce is really, really good. And one of the things we know about this RPO is your opponents can't really press out of it, because if they do, that outside player typically run commits and you could throw this streak. And of course, I'm just getting a little razzle dazzle, but trying to press to kind of slow down the pancakes isn't that effective. But again, here, if I do decide I want to run this ball, I'm going to be able to hand this ball off and be able to get up to that second level. And look at Quentin Nelson. Once again, he's just owning that linebacker in space, even though he's got an anti-pancake ability. He's dropping back in pass coverage, which allows us to really take him out of the gap. So I think I've kind of explained here how you guys can use RPOs to not only negate read and react AI, but actually trigger more impact blocks than standard inside zone and outside zone runs do. Of course, those runs are going to hit faster, allow you to get downfield more. But between this and draw calls and some of the slip screens that you guys can utilize, there are more effective ways to get pancake blocks than just running the ball. Choose the right play calls against the right fronts. Lab your playbook, find some fringe, because at this point in the year, a lot of players are not going to be prepared for this stuff, especially if they've been relying on read and react AI. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get the lab in. Good luck.